This is homework help for S4 National 5 homework due Tuesday 23rd of February. So first question asks us to find the magnitude of 2a plus b. The first thing you need to do is work out what 2a plus b is. To do that, we need to multiply our value for a by 2 and then add your b. Now, to multiply a by 2, you're just multiplying each term by the number. So 2 times negative 2 and then 2 times 4 and then add them together. The two lines, one on either side, mean magnitude. So you need to do the square root of each of your terms squared. Question 2 is simultaneous equations. You're going to have to start by making either y or x have the same coefficient in each equation. So to do that, one option is to multiply the second equation by 3. So multiplying that by 3, we get 9x minus 3y equals 15. Now if we add equation 1 and equation 2 together, we will see that the 3y minus 3y, they'll cancel out, and we can do 2x plus 9x equals 9 plus 15. Solve that to get a value for x, and then substitute that in to one of the equations and rearrange to get a value for y. Question 3, identify the trig curves. So we want something in the form y equals a sine bx or y equals a cos bx, where a is the amplitude, so looking at the y-axis, and b is how many cycles there are between 0 and 360. So normally with your sine graph you would have one full cycle and it would end at 360. So if it's now ending at 120, how many times can we repeat that between 0 and 360? How many times will it be repeated? Question 4, sketching the curve. 4 important steps in this one. Your first one is finding your roots. So in order to do that, we need to make y equal 0. So you'll end up with x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 6 equals 0, and solve it for two values of x. You then need the y-intercept. To do that, we need to make x equal 0. So you can substitute 0 into the equation and get a value for y. And then your turning point, you need to find the midpoint between your two x coordinates. So where your roots are, if you've got a curve, imagine it crosses the x-axis there. Your turning point is right in between the two. So to find the midpoint, you're going to need to take the two coordinates of the roots and divide by 2. Add them together, divide by 2. That will get you your x coordinate. You then need to substitute that in to get your y coordinate. Once you've done that, you can then sketch your graph. Don't forget to mark in your 4 coordinates that you found. Okay, question 5 is rules of indices. So remember, if you have, for example, 2x squared times 4x cubed, we treat the 2 and the 4 as we would do with any number and we multiply them together to get 8. We have the x, and the powers, when we're multiplying, are added. So we would do 2 plus 3. So the answer would be 8x to the power of 5. If we were doing a division, the powers are subtracted. If we have a multiplication on top and a division on the bottom, just we'll do it one step at a time. So multiply first and then do your division. Be careful with your negative numbers. Remember 2 negatives if you do one number, a positive number, take away a negative number, you're going to get an addition sum. Moving on to the calculator paper. So question 6, we're told that in 2015 the car is worth £9,000. It loses 10% each year. What's the value after 3 years? So Your first step is to do 100, take away 10, divided by 100. Okay, once you've worked that out, you're going to do your answer cubed, because it's valued at 20 in 2015, and we want to know the value after 3 years. So that's where the 3 comes from. And then multiply it by your 9,000. Question 7. We are given a quadratic equation and asked to solve it. Our clue here is it's part of the calculator questions and it's to 1 decimal place. So we need to use our quadratic formula. X equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Substitute in your values, being very careful with your squaring. So a is going to equal 3, b will equal minus 7, and c will equal 1. Please remember, if you are squaring a negative number, your answer is going to be positive. Also remember, you cannot have a negative number in a square root, under a square root. So if you've got a negative number under your square root, you know you've gone wrong somewhere. Question 8 is solving, so treat it like you would any equation. If it was 2x minus 1, think what you would do. We want to rearrange it to get x on its own, so we do 2x, bring the 1 over to get equal to 1, so x would equal a half. That's exactly the same, the only difference is you're going to end up with sine x. Is it positive or negative? Okay, if sine x is positive, think of your CAS diagram. What 2 quadrants do you want it to be in? If it's positive, we're going to want it in all and sine. Okay, you're then going to need to work x out using your calculator, using inverse sine. And then any other values of x between 0 and 360 using your CAS diagram. Same for the cosine question. And finally, question 9 is, of course, cosine rule. So cos A equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared all over 2bc. Be careful that your angles and sides are corresponding. Okay, so remember it's always opposites.